It's all good. There's so many people. I'm so excited. Really looking for. It would be great if you actually really want to listen, if you can come to the front. We're going to make it a bit more interactive because... Come listen, it's great. Appreciate you, man. My pitch is maybe going to be a little bit different from the other ones here. I think I have much more of a problem that I'm trying to solve, which on itself is a really, really big opportunity, but it's not a very linear process. It's a big challenge that we've been trying to solve for over 4 years. We have received strategic grants from MakerDAO, Cello Foundation, different kind of cutting-edge Web3 organizations, work closely with Balancer, SafeDAO, a lot of really Web3, cutting-edge technology. And now we're at the point where we feel that this is becoming a product, and we feel that we're able to bring in new resources. So scaling local regenerative economies. A lot of fancy words. I'm slowly going to walk you through it. But let's start with a problem. And this is a problem that I'm going to take quite some time to kind of walk you through. Who here is based in the US? Everybody. Not based in the US? Cool. So I was meeting with an investor 2 days ago. He's a Web3 native guy. He's been in the space for over 4 years. And he was being very skeptical about Web3. He was telling me, yeah, man, you know, in the end, it's all just scams and it's not really helping real people. People are just using it to make money. Well, I come from the Caribbean and I live very close to Venezuela. And I know a lot of people that actually live off crypto that would not be able to provide for themselves, provide for their family and survive if it wasn't because of crypto. Where maybe here it's maybe feels like this is kind of a just a business or something that we do to make money. For a lot of people, crypto really is a way to survive and a way to live. And that's what got me excited about crypto. Bitcoin white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash, finding ways for people to do stuff with other people, not for me to be in a freaking Discord channel the whole day. So really bringing it back to reality. The reality is that there's a lot of communities in the world, especially developing countries, that have financial and governmental systems that just don't work. If I send money from the Netherlands or any other place to Curacao, it's maybe a 40% chance that that money will arrive in that bank account. And a 20% chance that it will arrive in that bank account at the moment that it says that it's going to arrive in the bank account. Our financial system don't work. On top of that, we have a currency that is not controlled completely by our own central bank. We have a currency peg to the US dollar, which means that we need to have a minimum amount of US dollars in our treasury enabled to create or mint our own currency. And this used to be great back in the days for international trade. But it's become really, really annoying during COVID when the US started printing money. And again, nothing against all of you, but it's really hard for smaller communities and smaller economies to keep up with that pressure, to need to kind of fight that inflation, to fight that new spread of money, especially if we don't get any of that. We don't get care packages. We only got more and more problems. So there's a counter movement to this. There are already over 4,000 community currencies that exist right now. Those are not Web3 systems. Those are Web2 traditional systems. In Sardinia, in Brixton, in Brixton as well, you have these communities that already have created a voucher system or a Web2 token just stored in a normal database, or even printed out community currencies that they use to enhance local production and trade. They use this on top of the existing euro or on top of the existing currency to facilitate more trade and more business between local businesses. Now we looked at that and we said, hey, why don't we turn these traditional Web2 community currencies into Web3 native systems? I've been at the edge of DeFi for the past 3 years. We're able to make liquidity pools. We're able to create lending protocols. There's so much innovation that we have unlocked that all these communities currently can't use yet. The only thing they can do is send and receive, send and receive. Similar to Bitcoin. There's not that much you can do with it. But we have these problems. Financial systems don't work there. So we set out to create a framework that does that. A framework that allows local communities to create, small letters, sorry. No worries, I'll explain it to you. We've created a framework where we allow local communities to create development locally tokenize that development and use it as collateral for their community currency. So creating a feedback loop of development, tokenization, collateral, new community currencies, new development. And this wasn't possible 2 years ago. It really became possible with innovations like MakerDAO, with the system that Celo uses, that now allows us to use collateral in DeFi, or what we call refi, to create such systems. Our vision is to go from the left, the community currencies, the Web2 systems that you still need to have trust in, that you still have very limited capabilities with, initially to this kind of local economies, these Web3 native systems where you can now also borrow, lend, trade, and exchange. And then from there, we want to embed these tokenized systems in these economies, especially these natural assets, which is a whole new asset class that's slowly emerging with the rise of things like climate credit, carbon credits, biodiversity credits. You see an increased demand for proper valuation of natural assets. And it's a market that we're trying to tap into to allow more of these local economies to utilize the already existing assets, the natural assets, to tokenize that and use it as collateral. So who are we? You see me all the way on the left. I'm not the most exciting person in this team, actually. There are people that are way smarter and way cooler than I am. One of them is Patrick Rossum. He was part of DAOstack, one of the first DAOs in 2018. He was the ecosystem lead there. He's been building DAOs for the past 4 years. Marvin Cruz, who knows ClimateDAO? Toucan, he audited them. He's a smart guy. He knows really what the deepest of the deepest of Web3 looks like. Mark, wallet builder, has been building on Ethereum since 2017 as well. Holly Grimm, founder of Spectral, of Astral Protocol, that does geospatial data. We really have a star-class team here. That bring different skill sets together that allow us to really bring the best of Web3 into the real world. I'm going to skip this. One of the biggest innovations, so I mentioned these natural assets. Who is familiar with carbon credit markets? A little bit? So carbon credit markets are something that, especially in Europe, have grown a lot over the past years. In Germany, for example, every company needs to be carbon negative by 2024. They're forced to purchase carbon credits off the market to run their company. In Denmark and the Netherlands, you're seeing similar movements. The government is shutting down anything that pollutes carbon, anything that's polluting Earth. And the only way to keep running if you're a polluter, if you are subtracting value, is to purchase these credits of someone that's doing good. The current way the markets work is oftentimes that national level actors, think of Russia or Brazil, they tokenize, or they collect the data of a system, for example, a forest, and they then say, hey, we have X hectares of a forest, can we please get X amount of carbon credits because we have this forest for over 20 years. Now the challenge here is that it's very opaque. You don't know really where that forest is, you don't really know what's happening in that forest, you need to trust that natural actor that they are providing you with the correct data. But it's a nation state. You can't just go there and join their country and say, oh, no, it's not true. It's really hard to kind of counter them. And it has created this very high barrier to entry for the carbon markets. You need to be a state actor or a very large corporation in order to tap into this growing market. And we want to change that with Web3. So we have created a new standard called the Geo-NFT. That stands for Geographic NFT. It's an NFT that stores geographic data inside of it. So it stores the different data points that come from, for example, a forest. So it's a collection of satellite data, underground sensors, personal input, weather stations, and it stores this all in the NFT. Now the owner of the NFT has the ownership of all the data that's stored in this token, and also all the output rights from this token. So for example, owning this NFT, you can sell the data that has been collected, but also you can monetize all the outputs that are created from it. Whether that's the production of foods or vegetables, but also the production of potential carbon offsets, biodiversity credits, etc. Once you do that, you can get a map like this, where you can literally see what you're buying, and you can see the data coming in real time, and you know that this is your data and you can monetize this. This changes the market of natural assets or natural asset credits from a market that's dominated by state actors and large parties to allowing smaller parties to provide, as long as they can provide good data, to be able to tap into this market. So now we're going to envision what the system could actually look like. So if you look all the way on the left side, the Kolektivo Network Treasury, this is our global treasury. You could call it the DAO, the DeFi protocol. It seeds local communities with a loan. Think of a community like Curacao, where I'm from, but it could also be a region or a state. Let's think the city of Amsterdam. Any locality that wants to increase trade and conservation of nature in their territory. What they'll be able to do is they can tokenize these natural assets. They can tokenize the natural assets they already have or produce new ones. And based on that, issue community currencies. So there's a treasury, a collateral. They can issue these community currencies, which they can then use, again, to increase the local development and hopefully create more natural assets. So it's creating this feedback loop where you create, monetize, create, monetize, create, monetize, and hopefully keeps growing. Now, I think one important thing, and actually Uzier, these are my old slides, by the way, so it's a little bit weird, but it's all good. I'm going to imagine that I have the new slides here where you actually see the different fee models, because this is where it gets interesting. There are over 80 countries right now that have a dollar-packed or other larger currency-packed economy that don't have sufficient cash on the ground to do these actions, that are looking for ways to get more cash on the ground. What we're going to do is we're going to open up this toolkit and allow communities to, one, tokenize their natural assets. Every time that they tokenize it through our platform, we're taking a fee, we're taking a cut of these natural assets. We're allowing them to create these community currencies, where we also take a cut every time that they mint new currencies. So we only take a cut when they grow. We don't take a cut if they just use it. And we're going to store that all in the network treasury. And then what we can do is we can utilize these assets that we gained to create markets between these assets. We can use the DeFi primitives that have been created to create a market between, for example, Kolektivo Costa Rica and Kolektivo Curacao. Or we can create a market between natural assets in a locality and a community currency in another. And this is a way to further enhance the returns of the protocol, because we're not just the one creating the assets, we're also the one making the markets. And that's a really big opportunity that with just an adoption of, for example, 0.1% of a location, let's take as example Brazil. If you only have 0.1% of the local currency circulating in a system like this, we're already talking about multiple millions of dollars going to this treasury, because the existing market is extremely big. It's a money market, it's a currency market. And on top of that, now the natural asset market. So maybe going into some other slides, kind of what we've done. Hey, Uzier, can we play a video? Is this going to work or not really? No? No? No. Not going to work. So maybe going a little bit more into who we're doing this with. So on the right side, you see the builder groups. These are the parties that have come together to develop Kolektivo. The people that you saw, they all have been founders of current venture labs or venture studios and are now joining forces under Kolektivo. But we also have a bunch of partners outside of that circle. One of the biggest ones being Cello. I was in SF yesterday at the Cello event. They are a blockchain for prosperity. They have complete focus on the things that we are doing. And they have a really big network around it. They have onboarded Kickstarter. They have a partnership with T-Mobile. So they're really at the cutting edge of impact blockchains. We have IBIS Management. They are a fintech company in the Caribbean. About half of the Caribbean central banks use their technology. So they're a really good way into these localities. We have the Climate Collective, an organization that bundles Web3 projects together for the improvement of climate. Really good way to network and get connected for us. Toucan, you already know about it. And PrimeDAO, which is actually another venture that I've been involved in for a longer time. It's a DAO network that is building tools for DAO-to-DAO token launches and deal making. And it really gets interesting when you think about these local communities as DAOs. Because in the end, they're just organizations. So you could have Kolektivo Costa Rica again and Kolektivo Curacao. Now, what would happen if they can make deals, if they can do token swaps, if they can actually engage with each other with the Web3 tools that we're already creating with, for example, PrimeDAO? And that, to me, really is what I think the space is going to look like in 10 years. We're still extremely early. A lot of these things that I'm saying is completely new, completely blue ocean. You probably have never heard of it before. But that's okay, because we do know that the world with sustainable development goals, with an increasing, I think, awareness around climate change, awareness about inequality, is gravitating more and more and more in this direction, whether we like it or not. We're not going to be able to keep living the way we've been living for the past decades for another 50 years. If we don't change, things are going to be really bad. So gravitating more and more and more towards enabling real impact through crypto is our, I guess, main thesis. And we think that by using a system like Kolektivo, we can really reimagine how local communities are run. If you're interested in any of this, Kolektivo.network, you can find it there. On Twitter, we have a pretty decent following. But you can also just walk up to our booth all the way in the back. That was it. Thank you, my man.